The Ice Age is one of the Earth's most famous eras. It is also known for being one of the harshest. During those times, the world saw much lower temperatures than it does today, with a global average of just 46 degrees Fahrenheit or 8 degrees Celsius, making it twice as cold as the present. Such a cold climate created great hardships for all, including humans, and only the toughest could survive. Many struggled just to get by. However, a few not only rose to the challenge, but even managed to thrive. And one of these resilient animals is a well-known Ice Age icon that was an absolute unit in life. Coelodonta antiquitatis, more commonly known as the woolly rhino. Its once abundant numbers, recent extinction, and extensive range has helped it become a very well-studied animal. But it's an unusual one at that, in the sense that its remains have long been known before the species was actually described. However, until being described, no one had successfully figured out what the woolly rhino was, as the native people of Siberia believed its horns to be the claws of giant birds, while medieval Europe thought it to be a dragon. It wasn't until the mid-1700s, when a skull and two horns were found in Siberia, that scientists finally understood that it was an ancient rhino, which they decided was a member of the rhinoceros genus, which includes 2 of the 5 living species of rhino. And although this classification was more accurate than the mythical beliefs that preceded it, scientists were still not entirely correct in their judgment. It would take another 27 years until they realized their mistake, when renewed studies into the rhino's teeth found that they were hollow and much too different from the teeth of other rhinoceros, resulting in the creation of a new genus, Coelodonta, which means hollow tooth. And thus, the woolly rhino became the type species, taking on the full name Coelodonta antiquitatis, meaning hollow tooth of antiquity. Despite being named after its teeth, the woolly rhino was so much more than that, as it was a beast of a rhino that was equipped with an array of formidable defenses and weapons. And one key feature used for both defense and offense was its size. The woolly rhino was one of the Ice Age's biggest megafauna, with adults measuring between 3.2 and 3.6 meters or 10.5 to 11.8 feet from head to tail, while standing around 1.6 meters or 5 feet tall at the shoulder. This stature made them quite hefty, with individuals weighing anywhere from between 1.5 to 2 metric tons, making them comparable in both size and weight to the white rhinoceros, the current largest living rhino. While alive, the woolly rhino's large body would have been covered with a layer of fur and undercoat that granted it ample protection against the harsh weathers it faced. Preserved specimens have shown that this coat was reddish-brown in color and extremely thick, leading to the woolly portion of its nickname. The fur was also not one singular length throughout the body, with limbs sporting shortened hairs that prevented snow from attaching to the rhino. Along with its fur, the woolly rhino was also kept safe from the desolate cold thanks to its thick skin, small tail, and even smaller ears, which helped with thermal regulation as it decreased the amount of tissue exposed to the sun. The woolly rhino also had one more unique adaptation that allowed it to thrive in a rough environment, its massive hump, which was situated above its shoulders. In this hump, the woolly rhino stored large amounts of fat that could be used for energy when food was scarce. But that wasn't the only purpose the hump played, as it also supported the woolly rhino's most formidable and iconic feature, its massive frontal horn. The woolly rhino did have another horn as well, but it was the first one that was giant and played a much more important role in its life. It was made of keratin and could reach 1.35 meters or 4.4 feet from top to bottom, while the smaller horn was roughly 1/3 of the size. The woolly rhino used this giant horn to fend off would-be predators like hyenas and cave lions, while also sometimes turning its horns against others of its own kind, which has been indicated by the discovery of damaged horns and bones in many specimens, as well as cave paintings which depicted these interspecific fights. These conflicts would have been over a variety of issues, ranging from territorial disputes to mating rights. However, despite contributing to interspecies violence, it was ultimately thanks to these horns and body size that adults had few creatures to fear. And yet, in spite of its fearsome reputation, the horn wasn't just a weapon or a means of self-defense, as it could also be used for social interactions, identification, or even as a shovel, allowing the rhino to reach vegetation buried deep beneath the snow. Studies on the woolly rhino's teeth, including pollen analysis, have revealed that the vegetation in question was a mix of grasses, sedges, woody plants, flowers, forbs, and mosses, which it would consume in a grazing fashion. This wide range in diet was made possible by the woolly rhino's formidable teeth, which were composed of giant premolars and molars that had thickened enamels and were coated in cementum, allowing them to process tough and soft vegetation alike. It also helped that the woolly rhino sported a massive skull that was roped with muscles, giving it a boost in chewing power. Its robustly built skull was also important in lending the rhino protection against attacks, as demonstrated by a specimen that was brutally attacked by an unknown feline, which left it with extensive damage to its skull. Yet, thanks to its durable head, it was able to survive the ordeal and reach adulthood. Unfortunately, not all woolly rhinos were this lucky, and some animals appear to have been fairly successful in killing them, including cave lions and hyenas, the latter of which is speculated to have dragged many into caves where they would then be consumed. Another animal that was quite adept at hunting the woolly rhino is one we know quite well: ourselves. Modern humans first emerged around 200 to 300,000 years ago, while the oldest woolly rhino in Europe has been dated to 450,000 years ago. And as they only disappeared 20,000 years ago, it means that humans and this amazing creature lived at the same time for quite a while. Plus, since both also shared the same habitats, we can imagine the two ran into each other quite a lot. However, direct evidence of interactions are still rather rare, but from what paleontologists have gathered, it's clear that humans hunted them to an extent and scavenged woolly rhinos, with some individuals bearing injuries caused by spears. Additionally, certain bones have shown signs of being heavily beaten and slashed, evidence of attempts by people to reach the nutritious bone marrow located within. Woolly rhino bones were also used themselves by humans to make tools and weapons, such as spear throwers or spears. Occasionally, they would further be used as a means of creating art, demonstrated by the discovery of ribs that had engravings on them. Along with rhino bones showing evidence of predation, ancient cave art also depicted the woolly rhino being hunted by humans, with some images showing spears bringing them down, while others showing arrows delivering death. Fortunately for the woolly rhino, not every animal it lived alongside with was out to get it. Some of these animals included the woolly mammoth, giant deer, reindeer, saiga antelope, bison, and even other rhinos, such as the famous Elasmotherium. The woolly rhino coexisted with these animals in a variety of habitats, but mainly it inhabited the mammoth steppe, a biome characterized by extensive flat grasslands. The woolly rhino truly thrived here, and at its peak it could be found in most of Europe, the Mongolian Plateau, Siberia, and the Russian Plain, giving it the largest range of any rhinoceros ever. However, despite its immense success, the woolly rhino eventually hit a decline which it would never recover from, and eventually went extinct, with the youngest confirmed remains suggesting that the final survivors perished around 14,000 years ago. Some have claimed that a select population managed to survive a bit longer, dying out 9,800 years ago, but this is a controversial claim. Despite the common belief that humans hunted the woolly rhinos to extinction, most research actually suggests otherwise. In fact, most studies on woolly rhino populations show that even long-term human hunting had little impact on their numbers. On the other hand, there is quite a bit of evidence suggesting that a warming period was the main culprit in their downfall, as their extinction aligns nicely with the Bowling-Allerod warming event, where an increase in temperature and precipitation led to its preferred grasslands turning into an ecosystem dominated by trees and shrubs. This arrival of a new habitat also caused a fragmented population, which eventually forced the rhinos to inbreed, leading to an array of nasty mutations, such as growing ribs from their necks. This all eventually became too much for the woolly rhino to handle, and it finally perished. Furthermore, as the woolly rhino was the last of its genus, the Coelodonta, they were also the final member species to survive. Although, it still has close relatives that walk the earth, with its closest living family member being the Sumatran rhinoceros. And who knows, since specimens have been found with the DNA, maybe one day their extinction will just be a thing of the past. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time.